to bring that home, our guest today is Nina Knierim. She is a climate action strategist and a disaster preparedness and resilience expert for CORE, which is Community Organized Relief Effort. We're going to get into that. Her colleague, Yosef Jalil, is here as well. He's the area director for CORE. He covers all of California. Nina's profession hit home this month when Nina lost her house in the Pacific Palisades fire. Your family has been completely upended, and sadly, the nightmare is not over. Not by a long shot. That's the sad part. We're very sorry for your loss, and we're really grateful for you graciously coming here and sharing your experience, your professional outlook on this. As same with you, Yosef. Thank you so much. So I want to start. We're going to talk about aspects of what victims are facing, from finding a place to live right now, or getting their kids in school, or what they do with their documents. The insurance conundrum, and how you can help these folks through volunteering and donations, which really, people really stepped up. I got to say, made me proud of Los Angeles, how people did step up for this and continue to. But I want to start on a personal note. Nina, thank you for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I saw you on the PBS NewsHour interviewed, and you broke down when you were talking about it because it was pretty fresh at that point. And it just was gut-wrenching to watch. And then I found you because I knew there was so much more to the story. There's just such limited time on television. But we have a full commercial-free hour here on KPFK and the Sexy Boomer Show. And so if I may start by, how are you?
Good, but very difficult question to ask. I usually start answering that question because it's the first question off of anyone's lips, whether they're a stranger in the coffee shop or my mother-in-law. My answer is, I don't know, but I'll let you know what I'm doing right now, what's going on with me today.
Please.
What's going on with me and my family today is housing. We've kind of broken it into steps for ourselves because it's just insurmountable. The number of tasks and things that need to be put in order and into action to get your family into a secured housing situation for anyone. So today we left our short-term Airbnb, which we were gracious enough to get through the Airbnb app, and the credit that Airbnb gave.
They really did step up.
They really did. They really did. And it was immediate. It was within the first 3 days after the fire. So that was incredibly helpful.
And what they offered was $1,300 credit?
$1,300. And I don't know if that changed depending on the number of people you had in your family, et cetera, but whatever.
And you have,
helpful.
Let's just paint the picture here.
Sure.
You are a mother, a wife. You have 2 children.
That's right.
Who are in school.
Santa Monica College. I have a son who's in his second year of Santa Monica College. I have a daughter who is 17. She's a junior at Palisades Charter High School, which is not functioning. It's not destroyed, but it is inoperable at the moment.
So you had the quintessential nuclear. You have the quintessential nuclear family living in Pacific Palisades
and
a dog, and living in Pacific Palisades, which is idyllic. I mean,
we're so grateful to be living there.
A wonderful life there, and now Pacific Palisades, it's gone.
That's hard for me to. It's hard for me to I believe it, obviously, because I've seen it on television. I've not been there yet. And I think for me that will be the cemented finality. Right now it's still picturesque in my mind, even though I put it side by side with the videos from television and actually our own photograph. Our neighbor's house, miraculously, was the only house on our block that survived. Oh, so they were able to go in and grab a few things, medications and things like that, with the police. And he took a video and pictures of all the houses around him because we're neighbors. And we asked him to send it to us. And that's the proof that we had to send to the insurance company so that we could begin our claim of complete loss.
First of all, you all got out okay,
We
including
did.
the dog.
We
And that's
did.
what matters.
And it's hard to go into the back and regret or change anything that we've done or say I should have, would have, could have. Nobody.
And,
knew.
people are saying that the ones whose houses survived are the lucky ones. Yes, certainly to some insurance degree, no question about it. But they're now surrounded by a toxic wasteland. They can't go back anytime.
They can't drink the water. There's no power.
Right.
There's nothing.
And you really can't go back there until that toxic debris is removed. So they're equally displaced. They just have a house to go back to eventually, but they can't go back anytime soon.
That's correct.
So that's
I do
indefinite.
have one friend, one very close friend. Our neighbors are, whom we know, but a very close friend who's in that exact predicament. And, I talked with him a couple of days ago, and it is the same kind of limbo. It's the same kind of like, what are we going to do right now in the immediate circumstance, because we can't go back home. We can't. We were allowed to go get some medication, things like that, but that's it. So they can't go back, not anytime soon.
And again, this disaster happens in one of the priciest housing markets in the country, in the world, and so just finding a place to live
has been a nightmare.
When there's not a disaster, finding a place to live is difficult in this area. But now you have 5,000 or so, when they say
more.
They say 6,000 structures, 6,051 structures. That can be a tough shed, that can be a garage, that can be a commercial building, but there's still many thousands of homes burned to the ground.
Correct. And these are some of these are multi-generational homes. They have in-laws living with them. They have kids, they have college kids, they have grandkids, they have parents. So it's not just at one home, it's not just a nuclear household that has been displaced. And I think people might not understand that too, that even in an area like the Palisades that, have more wealth, there's still a lot of multi-generational homes and people who have lived there.
House poor.
Yeah.
People who have been there for generations. Pacific Palisades to me always was sort of a throwback to the East Coast because it had that old vibe feel.
Yeah, the little bungalows.
Yeah. Houses that were not anticipating any kind of a fire disaster like that, even though you could have said something back 100 years ago that it's prone, but it wasn't in that consciousness. I know that firsthand.
We have very short-term memories when it comes to disasters.
So there's a lot of people, everybody thinks, well, those are the rich people and the Eaton fires where the working people are. And, and to some small degree that's true. But there are people who have inherited homes, because that's one way to be a homeowner in Los Angeles is to inherit. It's really the only way to inherit. You also inherit the Prop 13 tax breaks.
Right.
So these people that really don't have a lot of cash, but they have a home that's paid off and they have low taxes. What happens to those people if they have to rebuild? Do they lose their tax exemption? Are they going to be taxed on the cost of the house to replace it? Are they going to be forced to sell? Just the amount of questions that come to mind when you think even just one little angle on it.
You could be the best accountant, CFO, real estate, home advisor, you name it, and have a PhD in, economics and not be able to figure out what to do in this moment. I consider myself and my husband to be well-educated individuals. We're smart. We know what's going on. Generally, with regards to taxes and insurance and FEMA, I, with my job, know a lot more about FEMA and how FEMA operates and the type of aid that's available.
Have you heard from FEMA?
I have, yes.
And what did they say?
They have given us a one-time amount that was based on, a number of factors, and then said post that anything that is not covered by insurance, or if you are underinsured, you can apply for more assistance. A lot of people don't understand that if you have insurance or property insurance, homeowners insurance, that you will not get more assistance from FEMA. FEMA is only there to give you what you need in the moment. They do not duplicate benefits. And so something that I heard on the radio, and I had to check in to make sure that that was correct with my colleagues, is that very fact. So even if FEMA is allowing you to apply for more assistance, if you have homeowners insurance or property insurance, you will not get more money. You can, but they might ask for it back. I don't know exactly what that process looks like, but they have been very clear that the aid is only for people who are underinsured or uninsured.
So have you heard from your insurance company?
We reached out to them.
Yeah.
Again, living and doing this work, that I'm a little more prepared than most. And I knew I needed a photograph of the home that was lost, so we got that. And I was able to start the claim for a complete loss. Because until you have proof that your home is either a complete loss or that it has received some sort of damage, the insurance company can't start your claim because they don't know what you're claiming. And in this case, I was claiming complete loss.
That's fair. I mean, and do you get an impression that your insurance company is solvent enough to be able to handle this disaster?
I don't know what their financial situation is, but I do know that the claim representative and the claims adjuster that I've been working with for a few days now have been incredibly kind and supportive and clear about what they need from me and when they need it. And that's all I can ask for at this moment. It's just clarity, clear information.
And we're going to get to the core and the larger issues. Just a couple more questions about your personal situation, because I think people have to grasp this of you've lost your home, your kids have lost their school. Well, one of them has lost her school. What are they doing? What's going on?
Yeah. So my husband and I, we're a strong family. This is not the first crisis we've been through, as a lot of families, have been through a lot of things, right? My husband and I have been together 25 years, so we've lived a lot of life together already. This is certainly the most devastating, catastrophic crisis, emotional, mental, physical experience that we have had together and apart. So our number one priority was our children and trying to get them into a stable, safe, secure environment.
How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, we've been asking ourselves that every day, and we kind of, have been taking it sometimes 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, because it's too overwhelming otherwise. And we have to take breaths. We have to call each other out when the other one's being unreasonable or just plain crazy, which has happened to both of us at different times.
And you've lost your possessions, your clothing, everything.
Everything.
You have the clothing on your back.
Everything.
Were you able to get anything out of the house before?
I had a couple of change of clothes in my go bag, and the clothes that I was wearing. And I have to tell this story. I got to a point where I had run out of undergarments. And we were getting donations of clothes, a lot of clothes for our family, for us. It's been fantastic, sweatsuits and shoes and socks and stuff. But nobody's going to give you their underwear, right? So and I don't want anybody else's underwear, I should say. My husband's whole mission yesterday was to make sure that he got me underwear, because he's like, you're not even, I can't get you a house, but I can get you underwear. Where can I go do this?
Is your husband Tom Jones?
And the reason why I tell that story is, one, because it brings a little levity and just humor to the situation that I would.
In the moment of the fire, though, okay.
Yeah.
So the fire happened at night. It started in the afternoon. I remember I was coming to do a show.
Actually, started in the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
At 10:30 in the morning.
10:30 in the morning.
All right. So, what point did you realize you had to evacuate?
10:45
in the morning.
So yes, and again, given my job, so I also do I'm a California area manager for wildfire preparedness and wildfire mitigation. I also work not only in disaster preparedness, but specifically wildfires. So we had a small wildfire on New Year's Eve in almost the same area, and it happened at 2:30 in the morning. And I am. I have watch duty. I have a lot of different apps that tell me when things occur and happen, even prior to being notified by the authorities.
Right.
So when I knew that fire was coming, I went back inside. I woke my husband up. I woke up my son. He's 20. And I said, hey, you know what? This is going on. There's no winds, so I feel like they're going to put it out pretty quickly. But this is a perfect time for us to have a drill. And my husband was against it. And he'll tell me now that he is so, so, so sorry that he pushed back on me. But I got my daughter up, got my son up, 2:30 a.m., told them exactly what they needed to do, what situation we were in, and that I wanted them ready to go at the door in 15 minutes.
Now, this was the New Year's Eve fire.
New Year's Eve.
I don't know if it's still being suspected.
I've heard that rumor.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was started by fireworks on New Year's Eve.
Correct.
And it was put down, but there was some talk a few days ago that it might have kicked up and started this.
I have no idea.
Okay. It's too soon to know that.
Yeah. But that fire drill, the word, everything is perfect for it, was what kicked off the preparedness actions for my kids. Not just that we had our go bags, because we had go bags forever, but the motion of getting your go bag, putting on your shoes, grabbing your charger, your phone, your wallet. For my husband and I, we have a firebox that we keep all of our important papers in, our passports, our birth certificates, Social Security cards, leases, titles, all in one spot.
You got that?
We have that.
Oh, good for you.
But and so we had all of those things ready to go. So when the real fire happened, 10:30 a.m. in the morning, we were all home, which was unusual. Usually my son is off at school, my daughter's off at school, my husband's in a Zoom meeting in the office, I may be at the office or in the field, but it was an unusual day for all of us to be home. My son saw the smoke first out the window, and he said, "Mom, I see smoke. Do you know if there's a fire?" So first thing I did was check my Watch Duty app, and it showed the fire in the exact same area. And I knew the winds were kicking up because I'd watched the weather. Fire weather watch, red flag warnings are something that keep us up at night and that we always warn our communities about through our social media channels. So I was well aware of what would happen if a fire started that particular morning. So
yeah, go ahead.
When he said, "I saw smoke," we both went outside, looked to see where the direction was coming from, and saw the flames so close, closer than I've ever seen them before.
Oh, my.
They were about 2 miles away from our house at that moment,
boy.
blowing our direction because it's the Santa Ana winds, and they were blowing westward.
Some of the strongest winds, certainly the strongest winds I had felt in all 30 years I've been out here.
Yeah, it was, and we had big trees in the back.
So Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane strength winds.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And so we jumped into action, went right back inside, told my family, this is not a drill. You have 15 minutes to get your stuff together. Each one of us, pack up your car. They're all drivers. Everybody's a driver, and we all have our own cars. Pack up what you need, get your go bag, and then we sent our kids off.
What do you grab in a moment like that? I would imagine.
I'll tell you exactly what I grabbed. I grabbed my go bag, which I had packed. I made sure I had my laptop, my chargers, my ID. I did take some sentimental pieces of jewelry that I had. I just threw them in my purse. I took a Rolodex desk frame book of pictures, threw that in my bag. I took a Cliff Bar and a couple bottles of water, and my dog. My dog had a go bag too.
Oh, good. I've had to pack a car for fire a couple of times, and I remembered a friend of mine whose family lost their home in the Oakland fires in '91, and he said the one thing they regretted, the only thing they missed, were the photos and the photos. I grab all the pictures, and I grab all the hard drives, and and go for it. But okay, so now you're itinerant, right? I mean, you're going from one.
We had a meetup spot, which is also part of the preparedness thing.
Did you separate?
We did. We did. All four of us separated because I wanted my kids to get out first, right? So they only took what I instructed. Had a meetup point in Santa Monica. Said, we're following right after you guys. I have a neighbor that I had to make sure got out. She's homebound. My husband and, we just kind of had our plans. And so we had a meetup point. And we knew which route to take. That was also very important. We had an exit out of our neighborhood to Sunset, which was all blocked. It was a parking lot. And then we had an exit by the high school, which was still open. Temescal Canyon Road. So I instructed my kids when they left, do not go Sunset. You have to go Temescal.
You're listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. We're devoting our second of two shows about the fire. Our guests today are Nina Knierim, who lost her home, as she's explaining, and Yosef Jalil, who is an area representative for all of California for CORE, Hi, Yosef.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So you're both with CORE. I mean, it's such a terrible irony that here you are. This is what you do for a living, is prepare for wildfires.
I have to believe there's something bigger going on for me to even be here talking to you. That is not lost on me.
Yeah.
That is not lost on me.
And I can see, I mean, we just met today, but I can see the stress on you and what you're going through. It's just, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Yosef, tell us about this organization you both work for, CORE.
Yeah, so CORE stands for Community Organized Relief Effort, and we're a nonprofit based in Chinatown. We actually got our start 15 years ago this month after the Haiti earthquake in 2010. You might remember that one. Actor Sean Penn started the organization. It was co-founded with our CEO, Ann Lee. And they got to work pretty much immediately in Haiti on response efforts, and then still maintain a presence there to this day with their recovery efforts and relief efforts, supporting communities across Haiti. Of course, we're based in Chinatown, and we have both a domestic and international presence. We operate on 3 continents, and we respond to emergencies globally. And, for the emergencies that we respond to, of course, they're meaningful. Of course, we throw everything that we have, our hearts, our resources behind them. But this one has just hit us so personally. I mean, as you can hear from Nina, we're on the ground responding to this. It's been like 14 days straight, or I don't even know how many days straight that we've just been at this working.
So what is CORE actually doing?
Yeah, so in the immediate term, we're providing kind of essential items, N95 masks, air purifiers, hygiene kits, feminine sanitary products, things of that sort, to just kind of get folks the basic essentials for what they need in order to, after they've been impacted by an event like this. But we're also giving cash. And, by actually this weekend, we expect to get out $250,000 and plan to give out many multiples of that over the next 2 to 5 years.
Wow.
As anyone that's in the disaster space knows, there's a lot of attention and resources and goodwill that's going on right now because it's so reticent, right? It's right in front of our eyes as we speak. But unfortunately, as you kind of alluded to earlier, the next thing's going to happen. And that's just a fact of life. And we know that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
And recovery from a disaster, we're talking about a 2 to 5 year or even beyond that kind of scenario.
And potentially the costliest in American history.
Quite likely. So, we're in this for the long haul. When we talk about our cash programming, that's not something that we intend on just, giving out in the immediate term. We understand that this is going to carry over and have probably effects not only on this generation, but even possibly generations to come, right? There are cascading effects associated with this.
Well, Nina, we talked about this, about, your daughter and son went through COVID.
They did.
And now this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a tough deal.
Yeah. Just the traumatic, this morning, my daughter was returning to school virtually, Zoom school, and other parents have insisted that they do a pod with her other friends who are also displaced homes and school, because we wanted her to be able to return to some sort of normalcy.
Right.
It is
so important.
It is so far from normal.
Yeah, so important to have social bonds. Our daughter missed her junior and senior high school years because of COVID.
Yeah.
And that definitely
impacted them.
Had an impact. Yeah. Absolutely. Where does CORE get your support? Who supports CORE?
Yeah, so we do source a lot of donations from the community, and I have to say, I really credit our donor base here in the United States and across the world really stepping up and just being really fantastic in understanding our mission and believing us and believing that we can get to people in an agile and flexible way and quickly, which I think we've done a really great job on doing. Also,
and supporting me.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't be employed for a better organization.
Absolutely.
I thought that before the fires.
Yeah.
I know it
Yeah.
and believe it
Well,
now.
You mentioned all the things you're helping out with, air filters.
Yeah, sure.
Or purifiers, I
Right.
should say.
Yeah.
I don't think we can stress the importance of air filters right now. I mean, even where we were, about 3 miles from the fires, 4 miles from the fires. And we bought air purifiers 3 years ago proactively, just knowing this was the reality of it. And thank God, because they really do work. Now, they cost $300, $400. How do people get a hold of these things? I heard through the grapevine that there are programs that are, manufacturers are offering discounts for disaster victims or people surrounding them. Is anything you can illuminate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to find retail, right? I mean, all of Los Angeles County is feeling it in their lungs. I mean, and especially if you are, a vulnerable person, an elderly person, a person with, any sort of condition, you have to be incredibly careful about, just breathing, right? The air, even indoors, it can be very, very hazardous. Again,
Our animals too.
Yeah, right. Animals too. We've had folks step up from manufacturers from across the country in terms of getting some of that stuff here. So we have some of that. I know other nonprofits as well are giving air purifiers away. Personally, for me, I had to go to Amazon.
Yeah,
that's where I got mine.
Okay.
Right. It just wasn't. We wasn't at our local Target. We looked at a few places, and I just said, "Honey, we have to." Yeah. To get this online,
and the importance of wearing a mask.
Oh yeah,
and 95 or better, and they're not even 100% effective, but they are significantly reduce the amount of inhalant that you have to be careful for. And this is going to be, people lose patience and they distance themselves from the disaster and think it's okay. And unfortunately, until we get some significant rainfall, that ash is super. I saw a radar signature, satellite signature last night actually, and you can see the dust coming off both the Eden and Palisades fire going into the Channel Islands. I mean, huge clouds of ash, and this is not all forest ash, which isn't good anyway.
Sure.
But we're talking about
it's toxic.
Yeah.
All sorts of chemicals.
Yeah.
Think of anyone out there, think about what you leave under your sink, the cleaning fluids and stuff. Think of that.
The paint, the metals.
Right.
So
please get a hold of a mask if you don't have them, and do wear them outside, no matter how old you are, especially kids.
Oh yeah.
Because kids respirate more because they're smaller lungs, so they're inhaling more of it.
And if you can, get to a doctor and just get a quick checkup. Let them, check out your breathing, just like Yosef mentioned, especially those who have asthma or other type of respiratory, illnesses. Just have them check you out. And then let the doctors tell you what you need to do. You don't have to take our word for it. Like our health professionals will say the same thing.
A couple areas I want to cover. First of all, your website, is it coreresponse.org?
Yeah.
Coreresponse.org, C-O-R-E. And you take donations, and
correct,
and people need help, they can contact you that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple areas I want to cover. We're running out of time. It's such a quick hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
The notion of survivor's guilt. I'm actually reading about that already. Mm-hmm. Can you articulate that?
I can only talk about it from the experience that friends of mine.
And you're a survivor, but you lost your house, so It's not like you have really any guilt.
And I have also the prepared survivor guilt, because as I'm sitting here talking about what I knew to do and how to do it and why, I felt better exiting, on the route that we took and had a place to meet my kids and had our important papers, all that stuff. And this is my job. I think I should have been screaming from the rooftops. I should have been insisting on people, listening to me. But that's not the way this goes, right? This is a conversation. A lot of people, understand climate change, and they understand that it's, making things worse, not better, as far as our extreme weather events. But sadly, it takes something like this to kind of whip people sort of, into shape and say, oh, wow, like this is not just about me. This is about my community. This is about the people that I love. Mm-hmm. So being prepared is, takes a lot of that kind of fear away because you at least will know what to do in the moment. You can't stop it. We can't stop these things from happening, but we can, make sure that we're a little bit more prepared when they do. So that guilt,
earthquake country.
Same thing, because the preparation for a wildfire is not that much different from a preparation for an earthquake or a flood or a power outage or any other
Where
kind of.
Where can people find lists of how to prepare?
Yeah, so we work with an organization that you're probably familiar with called California Office of Emergency Services, or Cal OES, and they have a program called Listos, which is Spanish for readiness. Mm-hmm. And so going to listos.org is where you can find very simple, 1, 2, 3 steps on what to do to prepare yourself for any type of extreme weather, disaster event, power outage, and then checklists for you, for your kids, for your parents, for people with access functional needs, who can you can take a little sheet off of their website and stack, put it on your refrigerator door. Things like that are just real simple steps, not overwhelming. Just like any kind of preparedness, you could take it to the nth degree. Mm-hmm. This is like 5 things, really easy to remember. So
there are 5 major banks now offering homeowners up to 3 months of mortgage relief. And now I'd like to talk about what's next, the future. I mean, a month before Altadena burned, the L.A. County Planning Agency, according to the L.A. Times, notched a victory with the passage of a zoning update years in the making. And it essentially bars more homes in unincorporated swaths of San Gabriel Valley, which the state has designated a, quote, very high fire hazard severity zone. That includes the foothills of Altadena, where at least 2 people died in the Eaton fire. That's according to the coroner. So the county is taking a clear stance. It doesn't want more people living in the foothills. That's a big ask because there are property rights. That's much easier said than done. We were talking a little bit about this last week, a simplistic overview, if you will, of you have this opportunity, say in Palisades, and I'm sure in Altadena. I'm more familiar with Palisades because where I am in proximity to it. But you have these entire neighborhoods that are just gone. Mm-hmm. Now, FEMA has offered, at least to people in Altadena, I'm sure they've offered it to you as well, that if you sign a waiver, they will come and they will properly remove all the toxic materials from your home site and dispose of them safely and properly, basically leave you a scraped, buildable lot.
Correct.
The question I have is, will the insurance companies and the state put in requirements? For example, if you're starting from scratch, there is an opportunity there to be able to cost-effectively dig your utilities and bury your utilities, which are a huge fire hazard. Right. Maybe increase the flow of the water under, in the hydrants, which probably wouldn't have mattered anyway, but, I don't know what that might amount to. And then require buildings with fire-resistant materials, which have come a long way, and they look good. 20 years ago, it looked horrible.
Right.
But now...
And the price has gone down on them.
The price has gone down, and they're actually good-looking homes. It's a new look, but they're nice-looking. And then zero-scaping. And creating sort of some kind of response mechanism to the inevitable. Because it's just... both Altadena, which has a wholly different socioeconomic makeup, it was people who were victims of redlining in Pasadena and Glendale moved to Altadena. So you have really tight families up there. Pacific Palisades is just a hugely desirable area. I'm sure everybody still wants to live there.
So beautiful.
Yeah. And so the question is, can we or will we be required? Is there a sense in the government to build back better, if you will?
It's a complicated question and no real answer right now. There is hope, from people that work in climate resilience and environmental science who say that exact same thing. Look at this opportunity we have to begin again, to start over, to build it back in a way that's more resilient, to build it back in a way that when another extreme weather event comes, whether it's a hurricane, as we had a couple of years ago, a flood, a fire, an earthquake, how do we protect ourselves and our communities from that? And it takes a combination of regulations, science, political will, community will, and understanding and knowledge to be able to, use the voices of the people as well. And it's not just decided in a vacuum in a council member's room. So there is a big opportunity to be able to do this. I question whether it's going to happen in the way that it should happen.
Lawsuits.
Not for trying, right? I believe people want to do the right thing and want to build it back better, as you said. But are they all going to be able to march in the right direction, in the same direction? And I don't believe that they will.
But if the government and the insurance companies say, we're not going to finance anything other than code, which has been updated to reflect reality.
Then the developers and the homeowners will have to abide by that,
right.
And I hope that they do.
And the ones that don't want to do it can leave. And the ones that I would think that if Pacific Palisades and even Altadena came back in a way that was more relevant and safer, I think people would love to be there.
And it's not just safer for the people living in the buildings, the houses themselves. This is the Western Santa Monica Mountains, we're talking about Pacific Palisades right now. The Western Santa Monica Mountains is part of a much larger ecosystem and habitat for birds, animals, the protection against the onshore and offshore winds that come through. And the whole ecosystem is impacted by what is built there and what will come back there and what is gone now. So taking all of that into consideration, not just the human beings that are sheltered there, but the rest of the ecosystem, because if that's not supported, those hills are going to disappear. And then there's nothing, separating between what, Thousand Oaks or Sherman Oaks or the other side of the Santa Monica Mountains and the ocean. And, as we're seeing happen in Palos Verdes and, the landslides that are happening, that same kind of thing can happen and has happened in like Topanga and other areas like when we had the big rain. So it's not just about the physical structures and the human beings and, pets that reside there, but the larger ecosystem that also has to be supported when this is rebuilt.
Have humans pushed the limits too far?
Oh, way past.
Okay. So
it's upside down.
So does that mean we're just going to not rebuild these places?
No, that's not what it means. It means that there are ways to combine the understanding of the science and sort of the environment around you and what's needed to protect that. At the same time, you can build in certain areas. Does that mean that every single structure in the Palisades can be rebuilt right where it was? Probably not.
May have to reduce density?
Most certainly, because there were hills sitting very precarious. Houses sitting very precariously on hills before the fire. And now those homes can't be rebuilt. They most definitely, they're not code. They won't, they weren't code and they won't be code now. So,
excuse me. What happens to their investment if they can't rebuild? Is the government going to bail them out at market value?
Sadly. So there's a book called The Great Displacement by Jake Biddle. And I read this book a few years ago, and it was actually one of CORE's group.
It's on our book list.
Book list. And we had originally invited the author to come speak to us. But I read that book, and it was very much talked about what happens to the communities after. And the ones that are bailed out, as you said, they're given some amount of money for what was their home or what was their lot, and then said, okay, good luck. Are those people ever put back whole? No. Never. Because they're not going to find another home that was comparable to where they were, probably close to schools, close to jobs, close to their communities, their families. And so all of that combined,
but that happens.
It's a loss.
That's happening all over the country. In
Yes.
Asheville, in Florida,
Yes.
southwestern Florida has not rebounded in 2 years.
Right.